so we can
Right,
be
so
with
here
it.
we go. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the keynotes. We're going to start this off with Bob Fine. And a little bit of background on Bob Fine. In 2011, Bob launched the only printed magazine covering social media, the Social Media Monthly. In 2014, he launched the Startup Monthly. In 2016, he launched VR Voice, a content vertical of all things virtual reality, which I would highly suggest tuning into. He covers a lot of activity on that channel. Bob was director of IT for international operations at Conservation International and continues to provide IT strategic planning, consulting services to both the private sector and the nonprofit communities. All right, Bob, take it away.
Well, Chris, thanks very much. Let me pull my slides up here. And it was great watching Alvin's presentation this morning. And, you know, I've participated in a small way in a conference within VR before, but honestly, today's really my first full day in it. And it's been great. So, Chris, can you confirm you can hear me okay? And
we can hear you great,
started?
Bob.
Okay, so because there is a little bit of a delay in the slides, I'm going to try not to speak too fast as I normally do, and I'll just try to relax and take my time. So let's go ahead. And you stole a little bit on my thunder there, Chris, but a little bit more about me. So my background is 20 plus years of engineering and IT. And spent a lot of my first half of my career in wireless and telecom. And I had a popular, it started as a hobby site and turned into an industry site almost 20 years ago now. But I was doing reviews of first generation sites on cell phones, if any of you remember the WAP 1.0 days. We actually got our content on Sprint's phone and carrier in Canada, but this was really early days of banner advertising and everything, so it was definitely hard to monetize. Well, and content still monetized even today. I've got advanced degrees, all but my dissertation actually, but in environmental science and policy. And as Chris mentioned, I was the global director of IT for Conservation International for 10 years. And then I Cool Blue Media in 2009. So Chris, just a quick question. I'm getting a lot of movement on my screen. Is that normal, or is there a way to, is it me moving too much?
No, it's all looking good for us. Okay. If that was the concern, it's good on our end.
Okay, maybe I'm moving a little bit too much on my side. Next slide. So, and with Blue Media, just some of the successes we've had in the years. We actually I organized what was the first social media conference on the East Coast here in Washington back in June of 2009, just 9 years ago now. And in the lower left corner there, I had a book come out called the Big Book of Social Media Case Studies, and very much to my surprise, it got picked up as a textbook at about 10 universities. And then in 2011, didn't what nobody in their right mind do, but launched the only still today print magazine about social media monthly, about social media called the Social Media Monthly. And but we were named one of the 15 hottest magazine launches of 2011, and we had global distribution in 20 countries and Barnes and Noble and airports and whole 9 yards. Had a big Kickstarter back in 2012 when Kickstarter was still pretty young, and yeah, so it's so far. And so as Cool Blue Media stands today, we kind of have 4 publications established. Social Media Monthly and VR Voice really being the dominant ones. The real-time report is we acquired back in 2015. Startup Monthly's been a bit of an experiment in different ways, but we started covering startups, as we talked about. A lot of companies that were doing social media, but were startups at the same time. So it was kind of hard to talk about all those things without discussing the companies themselves to a certain extent. But we have a well-established kind of presence and a lot of content online. So let's get back to the presentation today at hand. And I know you've all been chomping at the bit with what is this topic to be announced thing on the schedule. I wasn't sure myself, but really happy to have Steve had granted this keynote status. Steve, I appreciate that. This is actually my first, maybe my first keynote ever. But I'm going to talk about I decided a number of months ago actually that there's an area that nobody's been discussing, which is going to become evident sooner or later, and that's the eventual issues of cyber warfare and security issues within AR and VR. So right now, it's it's all VR, AR, MR, XR, and uses. Or is so what is it that we really have to be worried about? Or who do we have to be worried about? Or in some circumstances, whom do we have to worry about? Do we have to worry about this guy? Or do we have to worry about this guy? Or have to guys? It's from the Matrix, of course. You did, I'm sure. Or worse still, do we have to worry about this guy? And I guess it's not going to animate, but in the in regular PowerPoint, his fingers are up. And that's Putin, if you can't get that. So what concerns should we realistically have in terms of cybersecurity day in VR and AR? There's illegal recording and theft of user behavioral data, or maybe this recording is going to be used illegally or passed around without anybody's knowledge. I don't know. That could possibly lead to ransomware attack. If the city of Atlanta had an unprecedented ransomware attack, which I think that had they spent the 20,000, they would have saved about 20 million in recovery services the last couple of months. Not advocating that they should ransom, but just putting it out there. And the use of misleading information to entice you. Pull my credit card right now and give it to somebody with VR. Or, as we said, we're perhaps giving up other personal information, or social security, which you probably already have. And what about devices being taken over remotely in the workplace? Especially during very critical maneuvers in the defense industry, in medicine, surgery, perhaps. Or avatar impersonations. I mean, how do you know who I am right now here? Am I Bob Fine? Maybe. Or could be one of my interns subbing for me today. You'd never know. Is the individual or individuals who you're interacting with who you think they are? Now, this was animated for, and we'll see if, we'll get a little bit of text. So, is this the future of the 6 o'clock news? And is this the news that we can trust? Do we have to be concerned about a Cambridge Analytica situation on steroids. I mean, I can't believe there's still in the news fallout now from Facebook having, oh, it's a lot more developers had our information than we thought, and we still don't know where it all is, and we're not sure who's in business anymore or who isn't. Do we have to be worried about Big Brother, Mark? So, just thinking back, going back 20 years, and how the web was built, and why this was so revolutionary was some connection between pages, hyperlinked information, basic HTML, one site to another site to a third site. And I think VR, if it's not already, it seems to be. I mean, we're already traversing between rooms within Engage. Might as well be another world. This is a different world from the classroom we were just in. And so is this our web 4.0 or 7.0 or 9.0, whoever's track these days? So let's just pretend for a second, whether it's in AR or VR or whatever we're going to be. How do you know it's safe in the world that we're traversing in, or traversing between worlds? So let's pretend we're in world A, or I was in that class this morning. It's another room within Engage, but it might as well be another world. Then we go through this was animated before, but this is our pizza wormhole. And, as we go to another world, and pretty seen as you see this animation here, but they're actual pepperoni slices. That's not necessarily clear if it's not animated. In any case, and we landed, our second world, or our second room, or in this, beautiful area. So how would we know if we're in a safe environment? Perhaps we need, I'm gonna one here. Perhaps we need to know there's an easy visual way to know that we're in a safe area. Maybe there's a green aura or glow, just around the corner of my headset that indicates I'm in an SSL environment. Or, it's red, indicating I'm in an insecure environment. We can also even of web browser nomenclature today. That little unlock locked in the lower left corner, insecure, and now it's locked, and we know we're in SSL environment. So what are ways to implement cybersecurity within VR and AR? And these are, I think, obvious for the most part, but are they being implemented today? Secure messaging between VR and AR, whether it's text messaging or audio. Proper ID and authentication mechanisms between agents. I think obviously Engage has a level of security, as I had to log into the platform, and then I had to have a password just to get into this particular conference today. So I think that's good. Secure applications and firmware, residing on devices. Let's not forget, Oculus bricked their own entire set of Rifts out there, with an update accidentally. Is there a way to validate the integrity or relevancy of VR and AR? I'm not saying that we need to police VR content. I think having an open system and allowing creativity is a huge way it's going to grow. But we're already at that phase where it's hard to find stuff, and we're seeing the early days of the initial Yahoo like directories. But how do you find relevant content and information? Is there if my headset's been tampered with or somebody else has used it? Is there a way to force authentication, communication between VR and AR? I think again, Engage has one piece of that figured out. Was there another way for me to enter this conference otherwise besides entering my password to get in? And ways to just monitor for abnormal behavior, logs, so forth. And it's not all bad, and I don't want to make it seem like it's all bad. I'm very, very upbeat. I think Alvin was alluding to this in some ways in his presentation this morning, in which VR is going to make it very much more easy to learn a lot of things, and cybersecurity is one of those platforms that is not necessarily the easiest for people to learn or get their heads around, and a large number of respondents can see themselves using VR tools in managing cybersecurity. Large percentage even think they would enjoy doing it that way in VR versus normal desktop. And most agree that it's going to increase ease of use, and I definitely think so, as well as efficiency. So I gave this presentation a couple of weeks ago at VR Toronto, and blockchain was really a huge part of the discussion, more so than I expected, and I have some very strong thoughts about the intersection of VR and blockchain, even on its own. A couple months ago, I went to an all-day conference in New York about blockchain. And I went to this particular one because it was very well represented by brand names and Fortune 500 companies. What was a little disconcerting was how much head scratching there was, and nobody necessarily really sounding like an authority or knowing who was an authority. And I'm looking to be corrected. I want somebody to see what I'm about to share and tell me, no, Bob, you're wrong. That's not accurate. But this is my skepticism and summation about blockchain. First of all, blockchain is not a panacea. I think people are flocking to blockchain as the way to solve insecure platforms or other issues. And as far as I'm concerned, it's just another glorified database and a distributed database. And this is the thing: the accounting rules of any particular ledger, are initially defined by the individual or their companies that establish that ledger to begin with. And those rules can be modified and updated or deleted or nullified at any time by those same individuals and companies that are managing the ledger, developing the ledger, programming the ledger itself. So, blockchain and the ledger and secure as those actors that are involved participating in good faith. And when humans are involved, good faith can be very questionable. So just to leave with two plugs. I know Charlie's going to mention Metaverse Book, but if you're not familiar with it, please do check it out. You can find it easily on Amazon. And then the second plug, which I think Steve and Chris are going to get involved in, is our second annual Global Virtual Reality Day. It's really a day of free education to the public. Last year we had 8 cities participating, and this year there's been a huge amount of interest, and I think we'll pass 50 cities for sure. And Saturday, November 17th is the last Saturday before Black Friday here in the U.S. So the idea is to spur interest in the public. Maybe they'll buy a Go, for the holiday. And that's all I've got. And this is, a little info about me if you want to get in touch. But happy to answer some questions or thoughts or anything.
And Bob, thank you so much for the presentation. A lot to consider here. I know it's always a strange experience to give a presentation to an audience that's completely muted, right? You can literally hear the crickets, right? So I'm going to do something here.
My last presentation was like, anyway, no, that was live.
I'm going to mute everybody here at the count of 3 and let them all give you a round of applause. 1, 2, 3. All right, guys. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.